Hi everybody, welcome to Glow's Kindred Kitchen, and I'm Glow. Well, today is a very special day for me with YouTube. I am doing my first collaboration, and it's with Viola, and her cooking channel is Viola's Baked and Cooked Delights. And I gotta tell you, her channel is awesome. She cooks very similar to me. In fact, in a lot of the videos, her dishes are almost identical to mine. It just kind of cracks us up. And our way of cooking is very similar as well. So she asked me what we would like to cook for our first one. And I picked a video, or a dessert, I should say, to share with all of you from my childhood days when I lived in the Detroit, Michigan area. There was a company there, in fact, they're still in business, called Sanders Chocolates. And they actually had a little restaurant in one of our malls. And they served like sandwiches and desserts and that type of thing. And one of my very favorite things there was a Sanders cream puff. And they would serve it with ice cream in the middle. So after I had gotten married, I thought, I'm determined to learn how to make this. And here it is. It's very similar to what they have. The cream puff is very easy to make, and I just use, store-bought ice cream. Occasionally when I make ice cream, I'll use it, and then I make my own hot fudge sauce. Here I can't get their hot fudge sauce. Their hot fudge sauce is delicious. They usually, if I recall correctly, because this of course was years ago, they used milk chocolate. This is like a semi-sweet chocolate, and it's a hot fudge sauce. But anyway, I hope that you will watch this video and maybe make this for your family for Christmas. This is a great dish to make where you can make the cream puffs in advance and then put them in your freezer and then just pull them out on Christmas Day or whatever day that you're entertaining, and you slice them, put the ice cream in the middle, and then put your hot fudge over the top that you can make in advance as well. So it looks like a fancy dessert, and yes it is, but it's super easy to make. So I'm going to go ahead and taste test this together. And you can put a cherry on top. You can use any kind of ice cream you want. Today I just used vanilla.
Homemade vanilla. By Turkey Hill.
You guys, this brings back so many memories. These vintage desserts are just so good. There's nothing processed in this. It's all natural. It's just wonderful. Your family will love this. It's such a special treat. So anyway, I'd like to thank you for joining us, and please join me over at the stove, and we're going to make this this dessert together. Well, let's go ahead and put these delicious vintage cream puffs together. It's so easy. So right now I have in my pot here 2 cups of boiling water. It's just now starting to come to a boil. I'm now going to put 2 sticks of butter in here, which equals 1 cup. We're going to go ahead and do that. And then I also went ahead and I measured out 2 cups of flour that I have here in my sifter. And then with that I have a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to just turn this down now. What this is going to do is this butter needs to melt in this water before we add the flour and the salt. So while that is starting to melt in there, I'm going to go ahead and sift this flour and this salt together. That's what the recipe calls for. And when you have a recipe that says to sift the flour, I usually do. Some people say you don't need to, but I find that it really does help in my recipes.
Sift away.
And I think the reason why some people say you don't need to do that is because flour today is supposed to be pre-sifted, but I'm going to share something with you. Look at that. There's clumps of flour in there. If I had not sifted that, that would be in my recipe.
They'd be bigger clumps.
And I don't want that. but by doing this, it's going to get those clumps much smaller, and I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like.
Don't want big clumps.
No. And it gets compacted down, in shipping and stuff, but that's what I have left.
Yep.
So that's the reason I do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just set that over here and get it out of the way. So now I've got this going, and I have my butter melting. So I'm going to be back in just a moment, and then once this butter melts, then we're going to go on to the next step. Well, our butter went ahead and melted in here, and it's simmering. It's starting to break, the water and butter, as far as the bubbles coming up. And so our next step will be to add the flour and the salt. Before we do that, though, I wanted to show you the book that I have. I've had this book since the early 70s, probably around 75 is when I got this cookbook. I've used it a lot. And this is the cream puff recipe that I use. I've always used
that might be the updated version of it.
And what gave us this idea to make these particular cream puffs is we grew up in the Detroit area, and there was a company there called Saunders. And they would make these at their restaurant, and they filled them with ice cream, and then they served them with their hot chocolate sauce that they were famous for over them. They're absolutely delicious. So I went ahead and I found a recipe for the cream puffs, and I just came up with my own hot fudge sauce, and that's what I'm sharing with you today. But anyway, let's go ahead and add the flour and the salt now to this. And it says to add it all at once, which is kind of unusual for a recipe, but it works. So what you do is you stir this quite quickly, like I'm doing, without making a big mess, until it gets all combined and forms a ball and, sticks together. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with this, and I'll be back once it forms that ball. See how nice and thick that's already getting?
Let me take a look here, Miss Flo.
Yep. And then
it's doing it quick.
I'll be back. And then we're going to go on to the next step with adding the eggs.
Okay.
Well, now look at this, you guys. I stirred it, and it says to stir it vigorously. So what I do is like this. See how it forms the ball?
Yep.
If you did it in a smaller pot, it would definitely be more of a ball, but I have a little bit bigger pot because I wanted to show you guys and be able for you guys to see everything going on. But this is definitely a ball. So
it looks like mashed potatoes.
Yeah. The next step is I'm going to remove it from the heat. Then I've got 8 eggs here. And you add 1 egg at a time. So that's going to be our next step after this cools for a little bit. Otherwise, we're going to have cooked eggs in here before we put it in the oven, and we don't want that. So anyway, I'll be back in about 5 minutes, and we're going to add the eggs. Well, this is ready now for us to go ahead and add the eggs. I can put my finger in here like that. My hands are clean. And I mean, it's warm to the touch, definitely, but it's going to be fine. So I went ahead and I cracked one of the eggs in here and just whipped it up a little bit, and I'm going to add that while I'm stirring. And see how you stir until it combines?
Yes.
So I'm going to do up another egg, and we're going to do that one. This is such an easy recipe.
And there's 8 eggs, you said, right?
And it's one of those recipes that a lot of people probably have never had, and they're going to love it. You probably don't even have to whisk that egg up like I do, but I've always done it that way. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and combine this one in. I've got 6 more eggs to go, and I'll be back, and then we're going to put them on the cookie sheet and put them in the oven. I'll be back. Well, I got all the eggs beaten into here, and look how nice and smooth this dough is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my cookie scoop, and I'm going to just go ahead and put these on here, just like that.
Sounds good, Miss Flo.
And you want to have them a little bit apart because these are going to puff up and become really nice and golden. They're delicious. So anyway, I'm going to continue with this. I'll be back to show you before we put it in the oven. I already got the oven preheating to 400 degrees. So so it'll be nice and hot to put them in. I'll be right back. Look at these, you guys. I ended up getting 19 out of here. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in the oven. Luckily, I have double ovens. So I have both preheating to 400 degrees, and I'll be back as soon as they come out. And the goal here is to have them nice and golden and puffy. I'll see you back. Bye. Okay, so now we're going to be making our hot fudge sauce. And I'm going to show you the book that I got this out of. I've used this recipe for years. It's out of my Fanny Farmer cookbook. I've had this for years. My mom had one that she used for years. If you want a basic cookbook, this is a great one to get. It has a lot of old-timey recipes in it. I don't even know if it's in print now, but if it's not, I'm sure you could find one in a used store or on Amazon as used. But the recipe here, it's called fudge sauce, and it's delicious. So, and you cook it on the stove. So I usually double it, and so that's what I'm going to do today. It calls for a half a cup of cocoa. So I put that right in there. And then it calls for, and this is the doubled recipe. It has 1.5 cups of granulated sugar. You can use any kind of sugar, you know, like the cane sugar, you could use that in here as well. It has a half a teaspoon of salt. My half teaspoon is drying off, so I'm going to use my 1/4 teaspoon, and 2/4 equals a half. So there we go.
That is correct.
It has we have 1 cup of light corn syrup. I went ahead and measured it out, and I just use this because I find it just really helps not to waste. And
the old plunger.
Yep. Had this for years. Good friend. And then 1 cup of milk. Let's see, I got the cocoa, the sugar, the salt, the corn syrup, and the milk. So now I'm just going to stir this. I'm going to put it on medium to start with. This is going to take 20 to 25 minutes to thicken up. You don't have to stand here and stir this the whole time, but you should really probably stay in your kitchen or close by to come and stir it quite often so nothing sticks. So I usually do it when I'm doing stuff in the kitchen or switching laundry or, you know, doing something like that. But this is so good. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and continue to stir this till it gets combined nice and starts to cook, and we'll come back and show you as it's going on. So I'll see you back in just a little while.
Sounds good, Miss Flo.
Look at these, you guys. I just took them out of the oven. They smell wonderful.
They look
and
good.
Aren't they beautiful?
Turned out nice.
Yes, they sure did. And you can make these bigger if you want. These took 30 minutes to cook at 400 degrees. You can fill these with savory things as well. You can make them smaller to make little like high tea hors d'oeuvres and stuff. You could, you know, for savory, you could put pudding in them, cream, whipped cream, whatever you want. But this is a great versatile recipe. So we have another batch that's going to be coming out in about 10 minutes. And I'm cooking the sauce right now, and it won't be long. And we're going to be taste testing this together. That's a tongue twister. Anyway, I'll talk to you in a little bit. Look at these, you guys. Aren't they beautiful?
Those are even bigger than the other ones.
Oh my, they turned out gorgeous. And again, these took 30 minutes in the oven at 400 degrees. We have 19 of them. There's no way we're going to be able to eat all these today. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to be putting these in the freezer for Christmas. And this is going to make a delicious dessert for everybody and super easy on that day. So anyway, we'll be back in just a little bit. I'm going to show you the hot sauce the fudge sauce I'm making, and then we're going to taste test. Okay, so now we're going to be putting in our butter. And it calls for 4 tablespoons, which is a half a stick. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. It did thicken. You can see here that syrup isn't coming off of the spoon at all. So it's definitely ready. And the butter's going to melt. And then after it cools for a little bit, I'm going to be adding 2 tablespoons of the real vanilla extract. So I'll be back when we're ready to do that. Okay, so now the butter melted, it's cooled a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and add the vanilla that it calls for.
How much?
And you can add any other type of flavoring if you want. I'm just going to do the vanilla today. We're going to actually be using vanilla ice cream with this today when we put this together for the taste test. But you can use any kind of ice cream. One of them that's kind of fun to do is peppermint for Christmas.
How much of that did you put in?
2 tablespoons.
5.
So now I'm just going to stir this, and it's going to thicken up. And once it cools down, we'll be sampling this for the collaboration with Viola. So anyway, I'll be back in a bit, and I'll meet you over at the table, and we're going to have this together. Well, I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for taking the time out to watch our video today. We really appreciate it. And I want to thank Viola also for inviting me to collaborate with a vintage dessert with her. Viola, thank you very much. And if you guys have enjoyed this, please consider to like and share our video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And the same goes for Viola's channel at Viola's Baked and Cooked Delights. Her channel is awesome. And when you go over there to take a look at her vintage dessert, if you would please like and subscribe to her channel, I'm sure she would appreciate it as well. Again, thank you, and I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season. Bye-bye.